Pavilion Banqueting Hall, comprising 2 beautifully decorated modern guest suites with seating capacity for up to 1,100 guests. An ideal choice for engagements, weddings, Mendi parties, exhibitions and seminars. Supported by the latest sound and video technology, air-conditioned and free Wi-Fi. Contact us today and see how we can make your vision a reality. The Eastern Pavilion Banqueting Hall, located on Featherstall Road South, Oldham. A perfect choice for your perfect day.
Welcome to UK24 TV, the community hour, where we bring to you those organisations and charities that bring so much into our lives. And what better way during this month, the blessed month of Ramzan Sharif, the first part of Ashra, where we are looking for the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala into our lives, than to bring to you a charity, an organisation that is celebrating its 5th year in looking at education and faith as the 2 main factors that bring communities together. We have got a video for you which we'll show you a little bit later on, but let's have a look at the video if we can, if my technical person can tell me, before I introduce my guest, because they have put together a very beautiful video all about Ramzan Sharif and what it means for you and I when it comes to food, shelter and accommodation in our lives. Let's go straight to that video and then we'll talk about the rest of the programme.
People out there starving, not only like in Africa and places like that, but in where you're actually living now. When you skip a meal, you kind of get like this sore feeling, like it's like a really bitey feeling, like something is biting you. I wish there was something there to eat, but there's nothing there.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to UK24. Ramzan Kareem is the programme, a community hour where we introduce you to those beautiful charities and organisations that make so much of a difference in our life. And today I'm very blessed. I've always said that through my work I come across such fantastic people that inspire me to get up in the morning and get out there, even in this wet weather, and to come across and to try and inspire many other people. And today I have a sister with me. I want to introduce her to you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Hafsa, it's absolutely wonderful to have you here in the studio.
Thank you for inviting me.
I've heard so much about your work, and I think it's extra special because you are a sister, and often our brothers are doing so much work, but behind the scenes, sisters there to support. But this organisation, which is UK Education and Faith Foundation, is something that you set up with your husband around 5 years ago. Tell us more about it.
Well, UK Education and Faith Foundation is something that was much needed in our community. I've been doing voluntary work, charity work for a number of years, supporting destitute asylum seekers because my background is actually legal, so I was kind of roped into that work. Yeah. And from there on, what we decided was that there was quite a lot of people that were going hungry, that were destitute. We saw many of our own Muslim sisters at the time that were leaving Islam because they were suffering from poverty. And this is a sort of work that inspired us to actually set up our own charity because it was much needed. In addition to that, we also saw the rise in Islamophobia. And being as vocal as me and my husband were, we thought it was something that we could try and encourage our community and sort of show them ways and means of tackling this. So that is where our charity initially started from, alhamdulillah.
You say, Hafsa, that you found that many of our sisters, because of the situation that they were in, they were moving away from Islam. What do you mean about moving away from Islam?
Initially, when we got involved, we were encouraged to get involved. There were two sisters, refugees that were here. They felt they didn't have any support from our Muslim community. They, when people come over as asylum seekers, they go through an asylum immigration process. When they reach the end of that progress, what happens is that the support actually stops. And these particular sisters, when the support had stopped for them, they became destitute. And when they become destitute, that means they are homeless as well as not getting any support because they were single females, both Muslims. The only support that they got was from the indigenous population, and as a result of the support that they were getting, they just felt, look, you know, we're not sort of part of this religion.
That's quite sad, isn't it? I mean, the fact that they are from a particular faith, in this particular case, they are Muslim sisters, and as you said, they had all that support throughout that process, but then the Muslim community wasn't there for them. You would assume that those communities are there for them. When you, I was just looking at the Ramzan Kareem video, and you make reference to not just food, but you make reference to accommodation, shelter, all those fundamental things that are there to keep us safe. Some of your work is around education. I mean, fundamentally, it's around education and bringing the faith element of it. When it comes to educating people about what's out there and what support can be gained, is it just for Muslim people or is it wider?
No, with our charity we support everyone. You'll have seen as part of the video we run a food aid hub, Oldham Food Aid Hub, that's been running for 4 years now. That is open to anyone. Anybody can self-refer to that, and it's regardless of their faith, their background, anything. If somebody presents themselves as being needy, we are there to support them. We follow the sunnah of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who says that if anybody presents as needy, you support them. So we support anyone. We do go through an assessment process, but we support anyone and everyone who turns up, because it takes a lot for somebody to turn up somewhere and say, do you know what, I actually need a food parcel.
I mean, asking someone for 2 pence, 1 pence is big enough, but actually then you're accepting, aren't you? You're accepting that you're vulnerable.
Yes.
You're accepting you're weak and you have nothing, and for someone to do that, like you said, it takes a lot of courage.
It takes a lot of courage for somebody to walk in and actually say that, and then a part of our process is to make them feel very welcome, and not to make them feel that, look, you're needy or you're, you know, sort of, and people already kind of feel like, oh, quite demeaned in themselves. So what we say to them is, look, you know, it's fine. People go through these kind of processes. You know, it can happen to anybody. That's one of the things that we educate people on, that any of us at any time can be in this particular situation. We get many people who will say, well, look, I used to be a giver of zakat. Today, I'm in that position where I need that zakat myself. And many people will have taken the zakat and subsequently come back. We have a sister that only donated this week on Monday. She was one of our zakat donors for about 2 years because of her ill health and the situation that she was in. But alhamdulillah, she's come out of it, and she's, you know, she came this week and she was very pleased with herself that, look, alhamdulillah, I always said to you that I will come back and I will donate to your project, and I was able to do that today.
SubhanAllah, I mean, that is down to people, and that in itself is courage, isn't it? It's working through that.
Definitely.
Your work takes you beyond your local town. It's far wider. It's the northwest. It covers the surrounding urban towns. Can you tell us a little bit about the projects themselves for those people that don't actually know this charity?
Right, okay. We have a number of projects. As I mentioned, one of them is the Oldham Food Aid Hub, which we have been running, and the aim of that is to try and eradicate poverty. And as I said, we try and follow the sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ, and the aim is to try and get people out of destitution. It's not just to hand them a food parcel, it's to try and turn their life around. So in whatever way we need to support that person.
It's about enabling, giving them the tools to be able to get out of that situation.
So for some people, we may support them for a number of months, and in the process of that, we know that as part of zakat, you're helping somebody to get out of debt.
Yes.
So if a sister's present to us, they're in a lot of debt, they're struggling, they can't manage, what we do is we put a process in place and we enable them to get them out of that debt.
Is it, if I can ask you, in terms of proportion, male, females, is it around about the same, or do you find
I think
one particular gender is more than the other?
Possibly, maybe a bit more single males at the moment, but across the board, I'd probably say half at least. In terms of families, we do tend to get a lot of single females. It's not often a family. We do tend to get a lot of single females with children that are struggling. But as I said, it's people from all backgrounds. So it could be people who are African, Arab, people who are actually living here, that have fallen into difficulties. Women particularly that are fleeing domestic violence. We see a lot of that. We've just had a referral this afternoon of somebody that is suffering domestic violence, and they really struggle. What we see is, and particularly with our own communities, is ladies that have come from abroad, whether that's now through the European, we're seeing people that are coming through from European countries, but as well as India, Pakistan, even possibly some of the Middle East, etc. But when they're fleeing sort of domestic violence, they are in a sort of ditch, as it were, in terms of the fact that they can't leave that relationship because they have got no recourse to public funds. So effectively they're stuck in this relationship, that if they leave that relationship, there's nothing out there.
The dependency within that relationship, obviously there'll be elements of emotional attachment. There could be other attachments because they may have children from that partner. But also in terms of the mental and the financial dependency, that if we move out of this relationship, what will we have? There's
nothing out there. So this is part of the problem that people face, that the women particularly face, that we can't get out of this relationship, and they do often face a lot of barriers. There's very little help out there. The lady, as I said, I visited today, literally had no money for food. Even when she opened a fridge, it's one of those that you think our fridges in Ramadan in this month are absolutely packed.
Absolutely.
And all she had was a bit of vegetables, and even then when she took out the vegetables, it was as though they were rotting. And I said to her, do you have onions, tomatoes, things to cook
the basics?
She didn't have it. So I left her some money this afternoon, and I said, look, at least go get yourself the basics so you can cook yourself a meal. I took her a bit of meat as well. But this is the reality of what we're facing. This lady has had no money for three weeks.
I mean, for those people watching this programme, some of these people who watch this programme are from outside the UK as well. I mean, the programmes do stretch wide to other places. And thinking about 2019, thinking about the UK, in terms of, I think it's number 8 or whatever, in terms of the wealthiest countries in the world, and we talk about, but there is real sense of poverty, isn't there?
There's real
sense of hardship. we talk about breadline, we talk about austerity drives, and we've had a number of politicians from across parties who've come in to make ends meet. It's not easy now, is it?
It's not easy. It's very, very difficult. As I said to you earlier, a lot of people like males, single males, or even single females, what they're getting in terms of benefits now is about £80. Now, £80 a week is nothing. When they claim benefits, because the reason we're facing a lot of this poverty is the benefit universal credit. Universal credit, when you apply for it for 6 weeks, you're not getting any benefits. We have numerous, we've seen a sharp increase in terms of our food hub service users who they've either already claimed universal credit, they're in the process of being switched, and when they're being switched, it's not just 6 weeks they're waiting, and these are families, with children that have got no benefits. Other than child benefit, and that is all that they've got. So they've got all their expenses, their housing benefit, everything. At the end of this process of 6 weeks, 8 weeks, sometimes 3 months, most of them are in thousands of pounds of debt.
We talk about females, and females traditionally have been seen as most vulnerable. But there is a rise, as you said, of single males who have come out of domestic violence, abuse, relationships. But also find themselves at the bottom of the ladder when it comes to employment, because they could have an alcohol problem, a drugs-related problem, a mental health problem, or just generally they just don't know what to do in life anymore. How does your organisation support those young men?
We have numerous men like that. Some of them have been taking food parcels for a long period of time. We work with other organisations, so we will work with the Alcohol and Drug Service, the Employability Service, and various other organisations out there that can provide them help and support. It is a big struggle with them, and like you're saying, yes, a lot of them just lose that motivation. With some of them that we've been trying to say, look, okay, you've managed to now get out of debt, you now need to look for work, but they've lost that will, and a lot of them, we'll put plans in place, but they just can't cope. A lot of them will end up being homeless. How does the
faith element come into it? We say somebody who is Muslim, who comes from the Islamic faith. How do you bring the faith element to it? Because so often when we talk about organisations, we talk about services, and I'm thinking about, in my head I was thinking of an example of prison services. When we try and work with people, one of the things that some of my colleagues have said who work with these organisations is that even though we are Muslim, we sometimes forget the fact that faith plays such a substantial part in our life when it comes to revitalising people and giving them that spirit of uplift, is that we must turn to our beautiful faith to give us that. Do you do any of that kind of work?
We do, particularly with a lot of the ladies that as I said, if they have fled domestic violence, or a lot of the refugees often come, they've suffered a lot of trauma, they've gone through a lot of difficulties in their lives, they found it very difficult to arrive here. Even when they arrive here, they've then got all these issues to face with. What we often say is, and I often give examples to ladies, is about turning things into positive, and we obviously believe strongly in Qadar Allah, and even whether they are of faith or they're not of faith, it's about being positive with them. And we do, sessions where we will look at things that they do in their lifestyle that are negative. So people will say, well, I spend a lot of time on social media, and I often say to them, look, social media it's one of those things that, yes, it might occupy your mind, but it's occupying your mind too much. It's something that you would need to rid your mind of.
Social media as well, so it could be a tool within that.
No, but I'm talking about somebody just sitting there, just trolling it for an hour. I couldn't sleep last night, so I was on social media. How long were you on it? It must have been 3 hours, and I couldn't sleep. So things like that we will try and turn into positive. Okay, is there something else that you can do? Okay, spend a little bit of time on social media, do the things you need to do, keep yourself informed. But is there something else you could do? So one of the things I've recommended to a lot of the ladies is Surah Rahman, is to actually, and there's so much shifa in Surah Rahman, is to actually put that on and actually just have what I've called to them is like me time, where you switch your mind off and let yourself reconnect with the Creator. And we talk a lot about positive. So things that they would say, I would say, okay, you've made a comment. you're acting very negative, you know. And even if, let's say somebody's got a decision and the decision is not in their favour, you know, they'll come in, they'll be very upset.
So it could be a legal decision,
yeah,
it could be a court decision in terms of children or families or anything
that they've come in, and it's like, oh my gosh, you know, this has happened, that has happened. But I always say to them, look, we need to look at the positive. If this has happened, you know, you'll turn around, and I often give them examples of like myself, and I'll say, look, there'll be things that happen in your life, and at the time you think, oh, why has this happened to me, you know, and we often question it, but I'll say, look, now, I said, since I've started looking at things and saying, well, no, you know, if I was to apply for a job and I didn't get the job, and I say, well, look, it's Qadar Allah. You know, Allah has something better in store for me. So turn things into positive.
It's hope, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hope.
Well. We are going to go to a quick commercial break, and straight after the break we'll continue our conversation. So if you are somebody who feels that you perhaps are feeling weak in your spirit, and you're not quite sure where there is hope, then these organisations are there to help you to relook, to refocus on your life, and hopefully to give it that strength that we all need. And during this blessed month of Ramzan Sharif, for many of us are looking at our lives, looking at everything that we do, and looking at opportunities to make a difference in people's lives. So if you're somebody that wants to volunteer or do something for your community, then please do contact us, send us a message, and we'll try and put you in touch with one of those organisations. Inshallah, I shall see you straight after the break. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to UK24 TV. We're today on the Community Hour introducing you to a fantastic organisation, a charity that's working within education and faith and bringing communities together. UK Education and Faith Foundation. Hafsa, yes. I mean, I've just met you and I'm thinking I've got all these questions that I want to know more about. In this particular month of Ramzan Sharif, I know you've got some projects that you're working on which are very relevant, aren't they? Very poignant. And one of them is Meet Your Muslim Neighbour. Can you tell us a little bit more about it, please? Okay,
Meet Your Muslim Neighbour was also one of the projects that we first started with. As I said, there was a rise in Islamophobia and we wanted to present Muslims in a positive light. We produce a lot of our own literature, so whether it's posters, booklets, etc., and all of them are to promote Islam in a more positive light. As part of that, what we also do is exhibitions. So we maybe in the library we've done many. You'll probably see them in our video later. And what we do is we open the doors for people to come in and talk to us about Islam. So as part of that, we will also do Visit My Mosque. We also do school visits, but we give people that opportunity to come and ask us questions. I mean, recently I do know that Visit My Mosque, there was a number of people that went out to the mosque that may have never been there before. But it was one of the criticisms of these kinds of initiatives is that you're trying to convert the converted. They're already converted. The people that are going to come to you are going to be your nice neighbours. They're going to be those that want to know more about Islam. How do we reach out to those people that have been affected by whatever reason and don't particularly like Muslims, may never have met a Muslim, don't know anything about Islam, but have got this real sense of, I don't want to use the word hatred, but I think it's a very strong word, but a dislike or don't quite know, don't really want to know. They're not really interested in having a curry and they don't really like Asian food. Many of our children don't actually like Asian food anymore. Yeah. So they don't have the real incentives. So how do you reach out to those people? Those people, it's always difficult. I think my husband does a lot of that, particularly on social media. So people will want to stay behind this kind of barrier. So when they did the Visit My Mosque this year, there was a lot of people that were making a lot of negative comments. But it was always about staying positive. And we invited those people. It was a case of, okay, if you don't want to come to the mosque, would you like to come to our house? So there's different ways and means of reaching out to people. You're right in the sense that a lot of people won't visit a mosque, but you'll be surprised how many people do. You know, people would say, well, I've never visited, but it was an open invitation. I actually thought I'd come because, you know, but I only wanted to come in for 5 minutes. Many times people will come in for 5 minutes and they'll be there an hour later.
It's getting through the door, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you've actually broken that barrier down. Part of the work that we do also is not just in mosques. So we will go out to different venues, different libraries. So people that would ordinarily sort of, you know, pop into the library or just be passing by, it's a case of, you know, would you like to just come in and just have a quick coffee?
So meeting your Muslim neighbour, is this somebody who's an actual neighbour, a physical neighbour?
No,
it's the concept. I was trying to think, what if we haven't got somebody who's not Muslim?
But you'll be surprised. A lot of people do come in and say, "Well, I've never met anybody that's Muslim. You know,
yeah,
I don't have any
absolutely.
Muslim neighbours." So it's giving them the opportunity. Meeting Muslim neighbours is one of our projects. So it's many of our volunteers who work with us. And what they will do is, the whole aim of it is to try and break down a lot of the barriers. We've got so many things in common. So many things in common, and I often say to people, life would be boring, you know, if we were all created the same, if we were all the same colour. You know, Allah clearly tells us, I've created you in different nations and different tribes so that you may come together.
Absolutely.
So this is a thing that, yes, you know, God the Almighty, the Creator, has created us differently because He wants us to come together. So why are we sort of creating these divides? You know, let's come together. Let's look at things that are common. I mean, often if we've done, you know, a session, let's say, with women from different faiths, what we will all decide and, you know, sort of discuss as part of that is that, look, everything that we've got is common. You know, we're all worried about our children. We're all worried about schooling. We're all worried about, you know, youth. Lack of facilities for youth, drug crime, etc. Everybody has the same things in common, and this is what brings us together.
We talk about these things that are in common in terms of our needs, in terms of our aspirations and our concerns. Do you think sometimes that we use faith too much? That faith becomes a label, and then we do everything because it's faith related, or not?
It depends. Sometimes I suppose we make it faith related because the issues are there. So if you're tackling Islamophobia, then it is faith related. If we're doing a school visit, yes, it is faith related.
But poverty is not faith related.
But poverty,
food isn't.
It isn't. But this is what I'm saying. There are so many things that are out there that aren't, and yet as part of it's still teachings from our faith that drive us to do this. So in terms of poverty, you know, we see, you know, there's so many hadiths that, you know, feed the orphan, feed the poor, feed the needy, and these are the things that drive us. But it's not necessarily that when we're out there we're promoting our faith. No, you know, it's one of those things that you put on the back bench and you say, no, this is a duty I have to do, and therefore I'm going
I asked that question, and I think one of the brothers has just commented in terms of the work of UKEFF has been absolutely priceless, in, not just within the community but at this moment in time. I asked that question because faith sometimes is used as a label, but the word faith itself sometimes can act as a barrier. When we use the word human kindness or humanity, then it sometimes removes some of those barriers, because faith is not just as in faith as in the name of faith, but it's about our everyday life and everyday things that we do. Our actions, the fact that we smile to our neighbours, the fact that today when I was, I won't say I was speeding, but when I was driving really fast, I was thanking everybody for letting me go through, because I thought, yeah, Allah, just let me get there on time. Because it's important. But so everybody, that act of kindness, let me go through. I could see that I was panicking and things like that. But even acts of kindness of opening the door or just making sure you're okay. A nod is an act of kindness, which is entrenched within our faith, isn't it?
It is. But this is part of the sunnah, isn't it? Yes. The sunnah is that we actually outwardly as well as inwardly, but outwardly we promote you know, our faith, but in these acts of kindness. So as you say, everything that you do, whether it's opening the door, whether it's feeding somebody, whatever, it is all, acts, and it's acts of humankind. It's the humanity that's inside us. We've all got this inherent humanity. It's about bringing that humanity out, and we often do. One of the things we promote as part of Meet Your Muslim Neighbour is whereby we have photographs taken of people from different faiths, and the logo that we have with it is that we are one humankind.
Within our own faith, I mean, we're two women. We actually have the same sort of heritage. We're a Pakistani background, but we're very different, and that's, as you said, is the beauty of it. How do we talk about this to our children? One of the things that's come out most recently is the fact that over the last sort of 10 to 15 years, is our children are moving away from the cultural elements of Islam. Not just the faith element, but the cultural elements of Islam, in the sense of the way that we dress maybe, or the food that we eat, or how the rituals in terms of speaking to people, shaking their hands, saying Assalamu alaikum to people. All those things that there's almost a reluctance, because they want to be so integrated within the British way of life, which they see it as different to the cultural elements. How do we keep hold of those positive elements of our faith and culture?
It's through education. But I think there's been a detachment in the sense that we followed this sort of cultural practice of, I suppose, sending our children to mosque and being sort of ritualistic in our approach. And I think that
we're very good at the rituals, aren't we?
But that element of it needs to change. I think for us, particularly for me and my husband, and we often have this banter, is that we have sort of expected our children to be ritualistic, but we haven't actually taught them the reasons behind, like the purpose of praying your salah, the purpose of being charitable, etc. And we've sort of said, well, you just do it. And
the fundamental principles, understanding those, isn't it?
Yeah, understanding those, but implementing them then in our lives. But if our children do not understand the fundamentals in a way that they would understand it today, so you need to relate things a lot to today. So
it has to be relevant to today's society.
So as part of our education, it's about making things relevant to current lifestyles. But I just feel that the way things have been, sort of, you have to go to mosque, you have to do this, you have to do this, we've kind of forced the deen upon them to some degree, but we've not allowed that questioning. And this is where I think we feel as a community that we need to have more forums where our youth, our even older people, you can go and you can ask questions. Let's, for example,
without feeling
that someone's going to judge me,
and
somebody's going to say, "Oh my gosh, you're a Muslim, you wear your hijab, and you don't know
why are you asking that question?
You don't know how to pray salah." We know that in today's day and age, people have moved away a lot from the deen, even as you're saying, from the culture as well. But it's how do you bring people back? But it's about not judging people and saying, okay, if you want to ask a question, feel free to ask a question. And a lot of sisters will approach us and they will say, or even brothers, okay, let's say that this is the current society that we live in, and people will be presenting and saying, I'm gay, for example. And as a community, we're like, oh, astaghfirullah, how can somebody say that? We need to stop approaching things like that and saying, well, if somebody has come to you and they've said that, you need to
it's now addressing it.
But we shy away from a lot of things, like the RSE currently in schools, where a lot of us will shy away from. Oh, we're not going to go and say that because we're going to be seen as homophobic. But why? Why would we be seen as homophobic?
If someone wanted to, I mean, these are big challenges, aren't they? And what we hope to do in the next few weeks is we'll call you back and we'll look at some of those challenges. As an organisation, if someone's watching this and they want to be involved and they want to get in touch with you, because one of the things that in the last few weeks we've been looking at also is the fact that volunteers play a fundamental role in these organisations. If somebody wanted to contact you as a final message to the viewers out there, how would they do that? Having listened to all this and thought, yes, I think I can relate to this.
Yeah. I think the best way is to contact us via social media. Our Facebook page is UKEFF.org, our website, UKEFF.org. And
so that's UKEFF.org.
We're on all social media, so we're on Instagram, Twitter, so they can search us under that. And volunteers, our organisation is one of the only ones, probably in Oldham, that is run just solely by volunteers. We've got one part-time paid staff, but other than that, including myself, the whole organisation is run just by volunteers. We have a 100% donation policy for that reason, because we have minimal costs. So if anybody's wanting to donate, we've got a Ramadan campaign at the moment. We do food parcels for all of our service users, all the Muslim families, and we have many who are relying on that. So if people want to donate food, we have a charity shop as well on Yorkshire Street, which I haven't mentioned. So the sisters are probably going to say, oh, you didn't mention our shop. So solely run by volunteers.
Yes.
A lot of the sisters, mashallah, who have come through the problems, have stayed with us, volunteered with us, and taken very active roles. Some of them, when I look at them, and I'm just so proud of them, because I think, you know what, you came to us, you were barely speaking, you know, the voice was just broken, and look at you now, you're a strong, confident woman, you know, taking quite an active role within the charity. So alhamdulillah. So if people want to donate food, we're on Yorkshire Street, in the middle of the town centre, 72 Yorkshire Street. The shop's called Charity Begins at Home, because that's what our motto is, charity begins at home. We are British, we're here, this is our home, so let's donate.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Jazakallah, thank you for coming in, inshallah. I think we've got so much to talk about. We will invite you. Thank you. And Jazakallah for all the work that you do. So here we are, another wonderful organisation, UKEFF, United Kingdom, UK, looking at education and a faith foundation, UKEFF.org. We have got the information at the bottom scroll. We are going to show you a video. Towards the end of that conversation, we did bring in many issues that we are going to be looking at. We looked at the issue of Islamophobia. We also touched upon some of the issues that our young people will be are facing challenges against when we look at inequalities, when we look at issues around gay and those kind of challenges as well. Things that are out there that our children perhaps don't know where they stand, and the information that is sometimes given to those young people is not probably the information that we would want our children to face. But the reality is, this is our home, this is the community and the society and the culture in which we live in, and part of the challenges is to enable our children, our families, our young people, and giving them the tools to be able to move forward and to focus upon their life in a way that we would want them to do. Whether you are from a faith or a non-faith background and you're watching this programme, if you want to be more involved in any of the organisations that we introduce you to the programme, then please do contact us. The information about the organisation will be left upon the YouTube and also the Facebook streams. We are now going to show you a video which we hope that will give you lots more information, and hopefully will bring in some of the things that we've missed out in our conversation. Continue to look after yourself, inshallah. I will be back with another programme. Assalamu alaikum.